everyone, it's Emily. Welcome to Mama from Scratch. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 20 fall Dollar Tree DIYs using traditional colors. If you guys saw my video a few weeks ago, I did 20 Dollar Tree DIYs for fall that were non-traditional, like blues and neutrals. So if you haven't seen that, I'll link it here up on the screen and also in the description box below. But you guys love that compilation, so today is going to be traditional fall colors with that lovely burnt orange color, and I'm super excited for you guys to get lots of ideas from it so you can decorate your home on a budget. If you happen to be new, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. I have lots of DIYs and home decorating coming out for you for fall. I don't want you guys to miss any of those. If you're excited for today's video and enjoy it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and let's go ahead and get started. For this fall DIY, we're going to start by removing the middle pumpkin. It just detaches itself. You can just cut it if you want to. And then I'm going to trace around that pumpkin on the other Dollar Tree sign. And you can actually just use foam board for this, but I didn't have any, and well, so I used the board. Kind of did a little hack job on it, but then I'm applying some glue. You can use Mod Podge if you want. Spread that out, and then you're going to take one of the calendar months out of this one. It's so beautiful, and I wanted to use this in a couple different ways, but I only had one of them, so I decided this would be really cute. At first I was going to use the back of the pumpkin, but the way the orange just went with the print, it was perfect. So then I just flipped it over after I glued it down, and then I tore off the rest. I added a couple Jenga blocks on the back and then just kind of layered them. That way it would act as a stand without seeing it in the front. The little straw and made a bow with it, and then cut off the top part just so you wouldn't see the hole in it. And super simple, but really pretty. This is going to be a Fall Michaels dupe. I had this sign from last year and they still carry it. I removed the front of it for another project, and so I decided to use the back of it. I went ahead and put a coat of white Waverly paint on it, and I did more of a dry brushing at the very end just so it looked a little bit more aged. And now I'm taking my Sharpie. You could take black paint, and I'm just tracing a little edge around the border, and then a border around the edge. And then I'm taking these wooden dowels. They have a little point on the end. I'm just trimming them down. These are actually going to be an arrow. So the next part was to paint these black. And I'm just using the ink color by Waverly. You can use whatever black paint. They have these rub-on transfer gold letters at Dollar Tree. I think they also have them in black as well. They're really neat. So I just cut those out and then place them on the sign to figure out, where it would be centered. But some of them, I would say, make sure you do not take off that little white backing, because they will just stick to the surface even if you don't rub them on. I found that out the hard way. So you're just going to transfer them, rub them on, and then just peel off a little clear plastic, and voila, it's done. You could also use like a Cricut Maker or something if you want to do that, but trying to keep it pretty versatile here for you. You can also just use these sunflower stickers that you can find, but I wanted to use the mini sunflowers that Dollar Tree carries. I used all three colors that I could find, and I just think they're so pretty together. So at first I just had it bunched up in the middle, and then I slowly tiered it out to the sides, and this is the way it turned out. And I absolutely love this sign. It is so beautiful and such a good dupe. We are doing a Kirkland's fall decor dupe. I'm using the back of this pumpkin. You're going to want to remove the tag, or you can use whatever pumpkin shape you have. Dollar Tree does carry the all wood ones. I just haven't been able to find them yet. And so I went ahead and painted it white, and then once that dried, I took some painter's tape, and then I'm using this antiquing wax by Waverly, and then I'm just brushing this on. I wanted to give it a more of like a wood look. You can also use stain if you want to, but this is the non-stinky way of doing it. The stuff is so nice. I wish that I could find it at the store right now. Walmart is out of everything, I feel like, and that's where I normally buy it. So keep your eyes peeled out. For the next part, you can use stick-on letters or a decal if you have. I just used my Sharpie to spell out "Hey there," and I did a little bit more of a similar to a Ray Dunn font. It's whatever is on the font that's at Kirkland's. And then I took my pencil just to kind of freehand the word on before I went ahead and painted it, just so that I knew it would fit. I actually needed to stretch the word out a little bit, but using this paint that I got about 2 years ago now from Lowe's, and it's just beautiful rusty burnt color. And I just love it. It's just the perfect fall color. So I went ahead and just took my paintbrush and followed kind of the lines that I had done. And these are just $4 paintbrushes from Walmart. You guys ask me that a lot. Nothing fancy. I use the basic stuff. And then the leaf that was on the front side, I turned it over to the back side, and I didn't really like it green, even though it was pretty. I wanted it to be that really pretty orange color. Then I took a little bit of straw, made a bow out of it, glued it on, and this is the way it turned out. I love it so much. It's so cute. And here is the version that Kirkland has. This next one is super easy. You're going to take 2 of the grapevine wreaths that Dollar Tree carries, and you're going to get some of that jute twine or just some type of wire or rope and tie them together at the top. And then you're going to use one of the floral sprigs, whatever one of your choice. You're going to kind of insert that and then glue it in, and then you're going to take these leaves that they carry and then glue those on as well, or clip them on, and you're done. It's super simple, and you have this really cute, adorable pumpkin. You can customize the color, of course. So I'm going to be using this fishnet that I found a while ago. I've just been saving it, waiting to work on it for a project, and I finally figured out what I wanted to use it for. So I'm going to take one of those wire wreath pumpkins that Dollar Tree carries. They're actually quite large, and I'm just draping the netting over and then cutting it and then looping it around. It doesn't look the fanciest, but I'm telling you, it adds a lot of character to the pumpkin itself. And so I just worked my way around, gluing the ends to it. Now I'm going to use some of this really pretty lace ribbon Dollar Tree always carries, and I'm going to start gluing that on to the wire part of the pumpkin. I had an original idea for this, and then it just started kind of going in its own direction. I really liked how kind of vintage this looked, and so I just went ahead and just repeated that process. And when you get to the bottom, just cut it and then you fold it under. And then I decided that I wanted a little pop of color, so I have this beautiful rust color material, kind of like that paint that I had. I got it from Joann's, and you're going to be seeing that in my fall decor this year. I just couldn't pass it up. And I just took the scraps that I had, and I just go ahead and glue that on. And then I'm taking a couple other scraps like burlap, the orange, and then the lace ribbon, and just doing them in a couple of different lengths. And I'm just going to tie a little bow at the base, the top base of the pumpkin, and then I'm taking the leftover orange string and just wrapping that around the wire to cover it up. This is really versatile. You could do a couple things. I ended up just leaving it as is, and then I also added the metal words with some of the wood leaves to it. I just really like the way it dressed it up. The next fall DIY will be a wreath, and here I just have some Dollar Tree hydrangeas that I'm sliding in. And then my pine cones weren't wired, so I just went ahead and glued those down. And I'm using about 5 of each thing in here. This is quite a large grapevine wreath. If it was a little bit smaller, you don't need quite as much. And then I'm using these like white daisy dahlia things here. And putting those right next to the pine cones so that has a pop of color there. I really like it. It's just that coloring that they chose for that is so pretty. And all of these are Dollar Tree florals. I just cut them off of the stem. So basically each bushel that you'll get from the Dollar Tree has usually 5 or 6 stems on it. So if you buy one of each of these, you'll be just fine. And these are some greens that I'm using, and also from the wheat that you can buy there. And then I went ahead and put in the eucalyptus they have. They have a couple different colors of this in right now as well. And I'm just kind of spacing that out. I needed a little bit of green, but not a deep green. I really wanted it to be, you know, a little bit more muted. And then I'm adding some berries, and then gluing on some of the pumpkins, as well as just sliding the other ones in because they were picked. And I have some gold leaves left over for some other DIYs that I did last year. You can just spray paint the leaves, it goes really easily. And then this is actually wheat from Hobby Lobby. I got that in my fall haul as well, and I don't like cutting it, but I thought this was the perfect shade of yellow, and the creaminess of it was it's just what I was looking for the wreath. And so I just cut off a few bits of that and placed that in different areas as well. And then I took a couple fall leaves just to add a little bit of that yellow orange color as well in there. Again, this is a large wreath, so I was trying to fill it up. The two little small white pumpkins were actually from Hobby Lobby. I got them for like, I don't know, 59 cents a piece. And then this white stem stuff is actually from my spring wreath, and Dollar Tree does carry it. I used that in another wreath DIY, and I thought it looked really good on this wreath as well. The first thing you want to do is take your mesh ribbon and wrap it around the vase that you're going to be covering, and then cut that out. Some of your Mod Podge and put a good layer on. I put a little bit too much, and just go ahead and spread that all the way around the vase that the mesh ribbon will be touching. Just smooth out all the bubbles. If you don't use too much Mod Podge, it'll be very easy to do. I used a little bit too much though. Then take your ribbon if you wanted to add that. I did it to both top and the bottom of it, and you can use a hot glue gun for this or just use the Mod Podge itself. It works just fine. And I ended up adding that to the candle itself, but then also showing you how you could do it just the candle votive with no ribbon, and then the double ribbon on top and bottom. Now, since this leaf is wired, I just went ahead and bent that around, and that's just going to be the napkin ring itself. And then you're just going to glue on that little bit of ribbon. You can use whatever color you want, but I really like the leaf detailing and this fall ribbon that they have. And then I make sure there's a little overlap on the ribbon. That way you can pull it out and overlap it. Then you can also write on it if you wanted to. I just used a Sharpie here. And then just go ahead and wrap that around your napkin. First thing you want to do is remove the ribbon, and then remove that straw piece, and you're going to save that for later, that way it lays flat. Then go ahead and cover the entire back of the pumpkin with white paint, and I actually did this kind of more in a stroke feel, so it had that look of an actual pumpkin. And then go ahead and lay your mesh over the pumpkin, and again cut that out, and you're going to do that on both sides. And then you're going to repeat that process. You're going to need one more piece. You could leave the top blank, but I thought it looked pretty with having it cover the entire piece of the pumpkin. Mod Podge, and here you want to actually cover the entire pumpkin with the Mod Podge, but for purposes I just didn't. I don't know why, I just did the outside. But go ahead and just layer that on, and then take your mesh and again just press that on and put the top piece, and take your paintbrush and smooth out all of the bubbles. Then I really liked the way the harvest looked on there, and I thought it should be a little bit darker, so I just took some black paint and painted that on there. Then go ahead and take that leaf and bend that backwards from the front. Then I decided to secure the harvest sign with glue gun. You'll want to probably use E6000 for this. It didn't actually hold on quite as well as I was hoping to, as far as like probably with bad weather, it'd probably fall right off. And then I wanted the top to be a little bit more detailed, so again I'm using that brown leaf ribbon and just using my hot glue gun and wrapping that around. So you'll want to start by painting the entire pumpkin white, just the front part of it, and you can use any type of paint you want here. Let that dry once you get it fully coated. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. Then go ahead and go in with your black paint and try to get as straight a line as possible. You can tape this off if you want to, but I like to freehand things. It makes it a little bit quicker and just makes it a little bit more fun. And once you get that all painted in with the stripes going both directions, you're going to want to let that fully dry before we move on. Here is that leaf ribbon, and it's in orange. I think it's really pretty. I just used a hot glue gun, make a line, and then I attached the ribbon to it that way. You could use Mod Podge if you wanted to as well, or E6000. Again, I am just using the hot glue, but you might want to use E6000 for this to attaching the metal letters. And this time I did not paint it. These leaves come in a 2-pack, and you just ripped off the little hook there on the back and then just hot glued that to the pumpkin. I love it. I think it is so pretty. And then I used that straw bow that we had on the front side of the pumpkin, if you remember in the last one, and I'm using it on the back of this one. For this fall DIY wreath, I am using a wire wreath form from the Dollar Tree, and as well as all the florals. And then I had some loose pine cones, and I just took some floral wire and I twisted it around the base of them. That way I could interlock that into the wreath. So for this wreath, I am not separating any of the florals. I kept all of the floral sprigs together, and all I'm doing is sliding them through the wire on the wreath, and then I'm kind of taking the end of it and just twisting it around. And then the other florals will end up hiding those stems. That way next year, if I don't want to use this, all I have to do is just pull out all of the florals and I can use them for another project. So you can, if you have one of the grapevine wreaths, you can just glue on your florals like we did the last one, or you can just wire them in like we're doing here. You're going to want 4 frames, all of the same size. I picked these up in my fall haul. A square piece of foam board. This is the thicker stuff. Only one is needed. Some wire cutters for the wooden dowels, a measuring tape to measure the wooden dowels, some hot glue sticks, and obviously glue gun. And then flowers of your choice, whatever you would like to use. I started by taking the frame out and everything, and then folding back those metal tabs onto the black part. That way I could take out the piece of glass and add a glue all the way around the perimeter, and then that would seal in the glass piece. That way it wouldn't go anymore. And then I went ahead and took hot glue and applied it to one edge, and then hold the other frame to it and try to get a 90-degree angle if you can, and press it down and hold it till it has dried. Then you will do the same thing to the other side. Take your foam board and cut it down to the size that you need, and lift it up, and then go ahead and take your hot glue and put it all the way around the perimeter. That way it seals that foam board in. Then take some black acrylic paint and start painting your wooden dowels. I chose black because that is the color of my wooden frames. And take some hot glue now and apply it to the dowel. Then apply it to the glass. That way it keeps it in a nice straight line. I decided to just do one, but you could make a complete X if you would like to. So I'm going to be using a couple different types of ribbon, a lot of different flowers here. I picked up all of these in my fall haul, except for those little balls. I picked those up about a month and a half ago, and then some leftover ivy. You want a wide variety to use for your floral swag. You can use a half foam block and glue that down to the foam board, and then just start taking the different pieces and arranging them the way you want to. You can do a dry run of this first if you like. And I'm gluing some down to the actual foam board, and then some I'm just sticking right into the foam circle. So depending on what you want to do, and I started by applying mine in different directions. That way it kind of draws your eye in different ways, and there's not just one dimension. And I also just started sticking in the flowers. Now if you have a little trouble with kind of figuring out how you want to decorate this, you can do it in a clockwise motion, so some at 12, 3, 6, and 9. Try not to put the same flower right next to each other, so that's why I'm using about, I would say, 8 different types of flowers between the ivy and the sunflowers, and then I'm using some feathers, some grass-like materials, some different leaves. Next, go ahead and take your ribbon and cut off about 10 inches or so you can tie a knot. And then I just started making loops, and I made 6 and then divided it in half. Take that little piece of ribbon and go ahead and tie a knot, and that will hold your ribbon together. You can make as many loops as you want to, tie your bow however you want to, and then I just went ahead and placed that on top. You can glue it down if you want to, but I actually just used my flowers to kind of hold it in there, and then I was just kind of rearranging and tweaking the flowers so everything looked a little bit more fluffed and everything. Next, I took the other style ribbon and just cut a V on the bottom and then glued that onto the very bottom. And after that, you're pretty much done. Your lantern is complete. You can add in a faux candle or some faux pumpkins on the inside to add a little bit more to it, but it's really adorable, and I really like how much character it has in it and the colors. So you can use whatever you like. You can paint this and then just do the shiplap on it yourself if you want to, but I had this paper and I decided to take the easy way out for this project. I'm just going to cut out the shape here, and then I'm only covering one side. You can completely paint both sides if you want to, it's your choice. But once I get that painted, then since there is a little bit of a ridge, you'll see here in a second, I'm adding the Mod Podge first and then spreading that all the way out to cut the bottom layer of the paper off since there is that ridge, and then just glue each piece on individually. Now I'm going in with white paint, and I'm just going to cover up all the green and everything that is on the edging. You can do both sides, like I said, it's completely up to you. Now for the wording, you can use the adhesive letters that Dollar Tree has, or you can just write it out. I planned on actually using the adhesive letters, but they were a little bit too large for the amount of space that I had. So I just started in the middle with the C, that way I could get it centered without measuring. And then I'm going to put Welcome Autumn, and I'm just using my Sharpie for this. You can use paint, whatever you like. Now I'm going to take the leaf here and add this. I thought it was just so pretty. I'm taking off the little hook and just adding some hot glue to the bottom area of the leaf and just gluing that on. You could leave it just like that. You could add the pumpkin like I'm doing here. I felt like it was missing something, so I decided to take this leftover ribbon that I had from a project and just cut little V's in the ends, and then I'm just going to twist this together and then just add a little bit of hot glue, that way it holds in place, and it is wire so it's really easy to work with. And then I actually removed the pumpkin and just added the ribbon there, and I like it both ways. I like it with the ribbon and the leaf, but I also like with all three on there. So you can let me know which way you prefer it, but this was a really easy DIY to mimic the one that I saw at Joann's, and it was a fraction of the cost. So hopefully you'll be able to make one yourself. For the next DIY, I'm going to be using the pumpkins, the leaves, a scarf, the gather sign, the wreath, grapevine one, glue gun, some sunflowers, and cotton stems. You can of course use whatever you would like. I'm starting with the cotton stems first and just curving them around the grapevine wreath, just tucking them in with the wiring. It's not noticeable because of the stems. And then I decided to take a little bit of the green wire that I had. You can use whatever you like or glue them in. I just added this in between so you couldn't see it. Then I took the scarf and just kind of layered it onto itself. That way I could take the ribbon. You can also use a tie for this, whatever you'd like, and just cinch that. And then you have a really easy bow. Super simple. You can glue it, whatever you'd like. I actually like the little polka dot ribbon with it. Just adds a little bit of color, and I like that. Now you can attach your bow by wiring it on if you want to, or glue it. I ended up just gluing it in and then using the cotton stems to kind of secure it, and I really like how simple it is. You could leave it like this, but I took this kind of like burlap sunflower. It's more of a slight yellow beigey cream color, and just added a little bit of glue after I plucked it off the stem and added that to the middle. I think this is really cute just as is, but the original plan I still needed to keep on going. So I took the gather sign and just kind of broke it apart and then pulled off the wood knobs that were on it. That's actually not wood, it's MDF, but you get what I'm saying. And then I just folded it backwards and then the sides just pop right off. You can add it just as is, but I liked the striping on it, so I actually just put them together and then added a little bit of glue on the back, or actually on the signs on both ends. That way I could stick the gather on, and then just a little bit of trim would stick out. I mainly wanted the red to stick out, not per se the orange. I don't know why, just what it is. I added a little bit of glue on each side and then stuck that onto each side of the wreath, just like that, and you're pretty much done. The first thing to do is to start layering in your flocked stems, and I like to bend them a little bit to kind of flow with the way the wreath is going. That's the nice part about having them wired. And I started just layering them different colors at a time. Your leaf, you can clip it in or glue it in, and then I took my pine cone and layered that on as well. And then I actually took the other mum that was on the right side and moved it over with the other one, so it was kind of, because the leaf was so big I didn't think it evened out right. Then I took my glue gun and glued in the welcome metal piece. It had to kind of stretch it a little bit because it wasn't quite long enough, so it's barely hanging on there. And then you can always add ribbon to behind it or wrap the really pretty ribbon around your wreath if you want some more texture and design to it. For this ribbon, I thought it would just be pretty as a wreath holder, so I cut that and then glued the ends together, and then you can wrap it around anything you need to. Leaves are actually off of this other Dollar Tree sign that they carry there. I had a DIY plan for it and it failed, so you guys aren't seeing that. I started by taking the Sharpie and covering up the red lettering. You could leave it or also cover it with glitter, whatever you want. I wanted to kind of mute it down a little bit. I took the mini mums and then glued those onto the felt pumpkin. The pumpkin is really bright, so I was trying to mute it down with the more neutral colors. But you could also doll it up and make it a little bit brighter as well with traditional fall colors if you wanted to. I just hooked on those pretty glittered leaves. They are amazing. And then added this flower on there, and then I added a little bit more mums coming out the side just to kind of have it taper down the pumpkin a little bit. I really like how pretty those mums are. And then I had originally painted over those yellow leaves that I had, but I didn't like the way they look. They don't look good painted, so I don't suggest it, and I actually ended up leaving them off because I thought they just looked gross. I just took a little bit of paint, put it on the back of the felt, and glued that down, but this is the final product. I think it's really gorgeous. I wish I could paint the felt maybe white or different color, but it just doesn't carry the paint well. First step is to take your foam and cut it down to fit into your jar. If you don't feel like separating all of your florals, you can just bundle them together and then tweak them however you would like to. But what I like to do is create my own. So here I am just snipping off the stems, and I cut them right at the root if I can, and then I will just start in the middle and work my way around, like working from 12, 3, 6, and 9. And that's the best way for me to explain it to you guys on creating a centerpiece, especially if you're new at this and you feel like a little intimidated. You can do that, but you can also pair your pieces together. So once I do one color, then I'll pair the next color in right next to the other ones that I did. So you're kind of working around the centerpiece, and then I'll just start filling it in with the different colors and different flowers, because different flowers create different textures for you to look at, and that will make your centerpiece look really organic and beautiful and fresh, and it makes it not look store-bought, which is exactly what we're looking for here. I have a couple of these pumpkin stems. Everything is from the Dollar Tree here, and I snipped off a couple pine cones. You can always glue, like I did here, a couple leaves to the pine cones to add a little bit of a green to your centerpiece. I glued these two stems together. Just get creative when you're building a centerpiece, and this goes for any type of centerpiece, whether this be for fall, for Christmas, for your wedding, anything you make. Just keep it fun, keep it creative. And here I like to do the centerpiece a little bit taller on the middle, and then I'll kind of flow it down to the sides on the way out, but you could do any way you're looking for. I took my glue and added it to the candlestick that I had painted black, and then I decided I wasn't enough there in it, so I took these frosted stems along with this leaf as well and put that in there, and I thought it just added a nice fall touch to it. Now if you're doing this for a wedding, you could leave it or take it out, it's completely up to you. And then I decided I still wasn't done, so I took this leftover ribbon that I had, and I decided I wanted that wrapped around, so I just glued it on and then took some twine as well and just made a bow. I just wanted to cover up a little bit of that gray. I think overall if you painted the whole candlestick and the container black, I think that'd be really pretty too. I just used a little glue to keep that together, and then the nice thing about using foam is that you can attach it and take it out anytime you want to. But this is the overall look, and I just love the way this looks. Then taking a wooden dowel and just gluing that to it, and you could use this again for your wedding if you have a special word cutouts or something like that, and just stick that into the foam. I got a free piece of particle board at Lowe's, and you can use a fence picket for this if you want, or attach a few Dollar Tree signs together. This is 8 by 45 inches long, and I painted the front side white, and now I'm just taking a Sharpie and I'm going 2 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm putting another line. So I'm making basically like a faux shiplap sign here with this. I will be using some of these leaves from Dollar Tree, as well as some leaves from their normal stems. I thought they looked a little bit better too. So some of them have the veining on them with the plastic, and then the ones in the packaging does not, they're just flat. And so I figured out which ones I wanted to use for the coloring, and I'm just gonna, I thought about pulling this off, but then it would take out the darkness, and I wanted to keep that. So I just cut off the very tips of it, and now I'm just going to hot glue these down, and I actually will go in with some glue as well. You can use Mod Podge just to kind of weatherproof them a little bit better, and you can cover all of them. So I'm going to be using the Antiquing Glaze from Waverly, and then this chocolate brown color by Apple Barrel. And then I'm also going to be using my 5-inch stencils. I picked these up at Walmart or Joann's. I don't remember, but I know both places carry them. You can use whatever size you want. And for this, I went down about 5 inches from the top to give myself enough room to spell out the words, because these are 5-inch stencils, so just divide that up by the length that you need. And normally with this, I trace them on with a pencil, and then I fill it in the outline. So I decided to keep it a little bit easier and actually use the stencil the way it's supposed to be used. And I really am happy with the coverage on it. Make sure you don't do too much paint, you just do a very light coating, and then you can go in and dab it on. It worked great. So happy with this. And then I ended up taking the word happy in the metal words that Dollar Tree carries from Easter. I had this left over. So you may or may not have this, but you can always trace it on if you want or paint it on. And I glued that onto the top, and this is the way it turned out. And I could not be happier with the way this project looks, and it's going to be double-sided. So just wait, I have another DIY for this later on in the video. The back side of it, I painted it black, and we're going to make another sign with this. So again, I'm going to be using the 5-inch stencils that I used before, and you can spell out whatever you would like to spell out for this. You can trace on these letters. If you don't have a stencil, this I think package cost me $3, and this has lasted me about 3 or 4 years already. You can always print off letters out of Word or something and then trace them on. And again, just kind of measure out. I decided to space these letters out a little bit more than the Harvest one. And again, I'm just taking some white paint here. This is the Waverly chalk paint, and I'm just going to grab some paint on my brush, dab it off, and then lightly dab it on. That means if you have too much paint, it will bleed through. You want to work with a little amount as possible. These are the colors I'm using to make the sunflowers. The only other color I did use was a darker like forest green that I didn't ended up showing you, but I thought you could always use the small sunflowers for this project if you want. But what I'm doing here is I'm starting with the brown, which is that chocolate color I used in the last one, and then I'm mixing in the bright orange and yellow together, and then going around, and then I'm using the yellow and layering that on. And when I do flowers, I'm using kind of like a tapered brush, and these brushes came from Walmart in a pack for like $3. I got I think 12 of them or something. And when I do flowers, I like to layer them in, so I like to start off wide and then go skinny at the very end. And what I also like to do is to layer on the paint. The more layers you have, the more depth you have in flowers, and you know flowers have a lot of beautiful colors in them. So once you get that going, just kind of start layering them in, and I play with it until I get the coloring that I want. and this is the way the flowers turned out. I added a little bit of black in there just to highlight the leaves a little better, and I love the way they turned out. This one is a little bit more orangey, but overall they look fantastic, and the more paint you use, the better with the layers and everything, and I just love it. You could also use these clip-on sunflowers that Dollar Tree carries as well. Which traditional fall DIY did you like the most? Let me know down in the comments. If you liked a few, that's okay. I hope you guys can recreate a lot of these or all of them if you want to decorate your home on a budget. If you happen to miss my last few videos, they'll be here on the screen as well as in the description box below for even more ideas. I have so much fall decorating for you guys and more fall DIYs coming in the next few months, so make sure to hit that subscribe button if you are new, and I have something really fun coming out shortly for you guys, so you won't want to miss that either. I hope you all have a beautiful, blessed day. Thank you so much for being here. If you can, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Definitely helps me out, and share it with your friends. Until next time, I'll see you soon.